Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at another of these Tomy Ania figures. This one is the Stegosaurus. But before we take a look at this, we need to say thank you so much to Keith from Dinosaur Adventures, as this was one of the figures that he had sent to us to review for all of you. So as always, thank you so much to him for sending these over and giving us the opportunity to take a look at these here all together on the channel. If you look at the box does look really cool. We've got an image here showing some of the articulation of the tail of the Stegosaurus down there. If we look at the side, we've got a few trees. The back here does show quite a few different figures as far as what is included with the Tomy line. The only ones that he actually didn't even send over to us would be the T-Rex and Velociraptor, so he covered a lot of these right away by sending them to us, which is really awesome. And then some more trees here on the side. So without further ado, let's go ahead, break this open, and take a look at it. So here is our Stegosaurus, and at first glance it really does have quite a very cool appearance to it. One thing that I am going to say straight away, however, is that the plates of the Stegosaurus give me a strong watermelon type of a feel, because they kind of have all the coloration of a watermelon, including having the seeds in there. I don't know if somehow, some way, somebody was like, I'm inspired by a watermelon to make the plates of the Stegosaurus, but that kind of really gives me that kind of a feel. It really looks like a watermelon, but regardless, as far as the sculpt and detail goes, it is definitely quite interesting, and I am really excited to take a look at it. So let's get a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head, you can see that the head sculpt definitely sports some very nice detailing as far as the skin texture goes. You've also got a few wrinkles here in the neck, kind of maybe looks like veins or something. I don't know if that's what they were trying to portray, or just in general some wrinkling of the neck, but it does look really quite nice on this figure. The eye is painted perfectly with a nice black, and you can see it shining beautifully with a very nice gloss in the light, giving it that very realistic appearance. The head is kind of like a reddish type of a color, but then it sort of almost has like a mustache here on the front of the face with a black color that's run along the beak. But I don't know why they didn't put that on the bottom, only the top. It does look okay, but I definitely would have thought that it would have looked better if they would have ran that onto the bottom jaw as well, as far as the beak of the Stegosaurus goes. If you can actually get inside the mouth, the tongue looks to be painted, which is really impressive considering how insanely small the mouth of that Stegosaurus is. As you move back along the neck, you can definitely see how beautiful the scaling appears. It really looks nice, and I'm definitely a big fan, especially of the scaling that they've chosen here as far as the sculpt work goes. If you look at the plates as we run out the neck as well, they have lots of cracks and crevices throughout, giving them a very nice appearance as far as the sculpt and detail looking very realistic, and pretty much exactly what you would expect to see on a Stegosaurus. You can see the shoulder blade here in the upper part of the dinosaur, very nicely protruding from the skin. You've got a few wrinkles in the joint of the arm here where it connects at the shoulder, and also down here in the other part of the joint. The overall placement of the leg looks very natural, very nicely done. Beautifully sculpted feet, and you can see that the nails are painted really nicely, and there is no sloppiness anywhere that I can see, honestly, as far as the nails go. You can pick up on the rib cage there a little bit in the stomach region of the animal. However, it does appear to have a little bit of girth in the stomach, so it's definitely a well-fed Stegosaurus. Very beautifully portrayed again throughout the sculpt. You've got some wrinkling and some skin folding going on down here in the lower part of the stomach. Very nicely done as far as the hip bone protruding from the skin. And I really love the scaling of the Stegosaurus all over. Look how beautiful of a job they've done as far as sculpting out the scales. It really looks great, and again you can get an idea of the plates up here. For some reason the plates have kind of a glossy appearance to them. I don't really know why, but it does help to give it a very cool appearance. Just not something I would really expect to see on the plates of a Stegosaurus. Very nice leg sculpt here as well. You can see that the musculature is definitely present, and once again the very nicely painted nails down here. And then as we run out the length of the tail, you can see that the tail has that very nice skin texture. It continues beautifully as you run out the entire length of the tail. The spikes on the tail actually also have some very nice sculpt and detail as far as cracks and crevices go, which is once again something you would expect to see on the tail spikes of a Stegosaurus. They are beautifully painted as well, with a very nice light, almost like an ivory type color, that transitions very beautifully to a darker black on the edges and tips of the tail spikes, so it really looks fantastic. I think in general the paint apps of this is really nicely done, very realistic. I love the transitions between the greens to like darker greens, and then even down here on the legs to a very dark green. I'm definitely a big fan of this green that is up here, and in general I think they've done a great job on the coloration of this, aside from a few areas like maybe the mustache and the watermelon type plates for the Stegosaurus. Although I don't think they're bad, they definitely give it a very striking look and really do look quite cool. Just they definitely really strongly remind me of a watermelon, but it doesn't look bad, honestly. I think they've done a very good job as far as what colors they chose for a Stegosaurus. More often than not, it seems like Stegosaurus gets chosen to be green, and I really do like a green Stegosaurus, and looks like a very natural color for a Stegosaurus. So it works out perfectly. The underside is also really nicely sculpted as well. The sculpt and detail everywhere looks great. Very, very cool looking Stegosaurus from Tomy Ania. Now, as far as articulation goes, there is no articulation in the head or the legs. The only area is the tail, which does allow for some very cool posability when it comes to this being a Stegosaurus, because one area that you're going to probably want to articulate on a Stegosaurus would be the tail, which allows you to kind of maybe create dioramas with it looking like maybe it's fending off a predator or something, or just in general to give it the tail swing that you would expect it to have when it's just leisurely walking around and feeding. And it does work perfectly. It doesn't really need too much other articulation, so I'm really quite happy with the articulation in the tail. As far as a size goes, if we go from the tail to the head, you're looking at about 5, almost 5.5 inches, but a little under, or about 13.5 centimeters. And for a height, the highest point would be the plates, so you're going to see this at about 2.5 inches, maybe a little bit over, somewhere in that range, or about 6.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is the Papo T-Rex, and you can now see just how small this Stegosaurus is in comparison to our larger friend, the Papo Rex. But this should also help to show you that it is really impressive just how much sculpt and detail they can cram into something so small, because I feel like it would be much easier to sculpt that same style detail into a larger figure. So for it to be sculpted so beautifully on something so small, I am definitely very, very impressed. But then again, we know that Tomy figures are fairly small, and this fits right along with all the others, and our buddy the Papo Rex helps to show us that right here. So as far as this Tomy Ania Stegosaurus goes, I really do quite like it. It's not quite as nice as the Pteranodon or the saber-toothed cat that we had looked at previously, or the Jurassic World figures that they are currently releasing. However, it is still quite nice. I feel like I would have definitely liked it a bit more had we chosen a different color for the plates and they didn't remind me of a watermelon quite so much, but it still gives it kind of a striking look in a fairly natural way, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm also not a huge fan of that area on the face that kind of gives it the appearance of a mustache. I think being a green Stegosaurus was a good choice, but maybe some of the coloration on this isn't my first choice for what I would have picked for a Stegosaurus. However, as far as the sculpt goes, I definitely do really quite like it. It has a very appealing appearance to it. I think the head sculpt and everything, as far as the skin texture and the beautiful scaling and that very large animal feel type appearance as far as the skin texture goes, was really well done. It's also in a very nice, very neutral pose, which allows you to really perceive this as far as however you would like when it comes to whether it's battling and you want to have the tail bent and kind of looking like it's trying to defend itself, or maybe it's just leisurely eating. It's really up to you and your take on it. Again, I really do quite like this, not quite as much as some of the others, but it's still a pretty appealing Stegosaurus. So if you do want to buy one of these, I will try my best to find a link on eBay where you can pick one up for yourself, so make sure you check the description because I will include that link right there. But before you go buy this, make sure that you please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.